keep the conversation going, you can let me know, what particular aspects you want to speak about, and then I'll just run through the functions of all governing bodies. Section 20, so I'm basically going to just read through that, and then hopefully when you ask questions, we can tease out the various points. Okay. So, like I said, this book is invaluable. I would suggest that every teacher actually gets a book, one of these pocket books, because it's very useful. And so, if you look at section 20, and just by the way, it's all, when we talk about the law, we must quote the exact law. So we'll have to speak about section 20, subsection 1A or whatever. Okay, so that is just how one has to refer to it. So if you look at section 20, then it says, subject to the act, the governing body of a public school must, section 21A, promote the best interests of the school and strive to ensure its development through the provision of quality education for all learners at the school. So you can see there that the very first point says that you need to promote, the governing body must promote the best interests of the school. So when we're speaking about the school, we're talking about all the role players at the school. We're referring to the parents, to the learners, to the teachers, to our non-teaching staff, and to all other staff that you may have that form part of your school. Okay, so that is sort of the first point there. And I think that's critical, because often governing bodies and SMTs have a somewhat hostile relationship, right? It's like one is competing against the other. Now, your SMT says to the management of the school, that is the mandate of your school leadership. And the mandate of your school governing body is governance. And together the two are supposed to complement each other. So both parties are supposed to be working together and not against each other. And if schools can begin to understand that it's not about the them and an us, like I said in the previous discussion, it's really about we are ensuring that the school is managed and governed correctly. So the school governors have no jurisdiction over the management section of, or the management mandate of the school. That is the prerogative of the principal with his or her SMT, and of course the teachers. And then your school governing body's mandate is to do with governance. And so that is where the expertise is supposed to help the school, right? And I know often we get governing bodies who want to overstep and think that they have some kind of authority over teachers, and that is not the case. The only time when your governing body does have authority over teachers would be educators who are employed by the governing body. Okay, so that is important. Just the fact that you need to work harmoniously, you need to work together as management and governance. And then let me just run through the first 4 points. In fact, the first 5 points. So the first one is to promote the best interest. The second one is that the governing body must adopt a constitution. So I was hoping that Noel and Tony would be able to speak to that. So I know most governing bodies have a constitution. The challenge is that constitution must be accepted every single year. So even if the governing body is not going to make any changes, if there are no amendments at your parent meeting and the things that you've discussed at governing body level, then that constitution can remain the same, but the governing body must confirm every year that the constitution is still the same. Okay, so you must adopt a constitution. Next point is that you must develop a mission statement of the school. And that's another area that I was hoping that our guest speakers will speak to, because in most cases the schools have a mission statement. But now the point is, sometimes that mission statement is written in such flowery language. Sometimes the mission statement is so long that people can't even articulate the mission statement. So that is what I was hoping that we could be able to pick up. But perhaps you can also comment on your mission statement at your school, and the governing body is supposed to have input into the mission statement. Now, in most cases, the mission statement would have been developed years ago. So now the new governing body has to accept that mission statement, look to see whether that mission statement does in fact capture what the school stands for. And then if the governing body doesn't know the mission statement, then it would be the responsibility of the principal to speak about the mission statement and mediate that mission statement with the new governing body. I think sometimes at schools, when we have new SGBs, then often those things like the game mediating the mission statement don't really take place. And I think that is something that I wanted our speakers to pick up. But perhaps you can tell us whether you've done it in this 3-year cycle of governing bodies. Remember, the current SGBs will end their term in the end of March 2021, and then we're going to have a new governing body elected for the next 3 years. So their term ends March 2021, and of course the new governing body. So in terms of the mission statement, those governors that will come on board, they will then they will receive that mission statement. So we're not saying that the mission statement must change every time when a governing body is elected, but that mission statement should be mediated, and it should in fact be mediated with the teachers, because your staffs are changing all the time, and it should even be shared with the learners. So those are the kinds of things that we want to chat about. So you've got the constitution that you must adopt, you've got the mission statement, and then of course the governing body must adopt a code of conduct for learners at the school. Now again, most schools have a code of conduct, and those policies have to be scrutinized, they have to be interrogated, perhaps annually, and see if the code of conduct that you have still speaks to to relevant issues. That you can't say that that code of conduct is fixed. There must be a code of conduct, but these policies should be open to review, so that you can see, does it now accommodate the new normal, for example, that we have now. You've got ways that kids must behave in a particular way. Let's take, you'll have a cell phone policy. I'm just using that as an example of the top of my head. But your code of conduct may say that if a child is found in the possession of a cell phone, then the cell phone will be confiscated for a while, and then you'll give some sanction. Now, in the new reality, there's a heavy reliance on digital tools, and the cell phone now with our new reality will again come under scrutiny. Are you still going to have the same code of conduct, or are you going to modify that, right? And then um, the last point just before I break, to greet those who came online and explain what is happening tonight. Um, Number E says 20, section 21E says, support the principal, educators, and other staff of the school in the performance of their professional functions. So that word support is very important. Support doesn't mean you have the right to discipline educators. You must support them. You must enable the educators and the non-educator staff at the school to perform their jobs to the best of their ability. Okay, so I'm just going to stop there with the first 5, and that was under section 20, subsection 1A to E. Okay, and then perhaps we can take some comment. So for those of you just joined now, Sharon, I think most of you know, because we have the regulars coming here, and tonight we're speaking about the HGB functions. Somebody's coming online. I'm sure you can see Nola's coming online finally. Maybe we'll get Nola in here. So Chris will just try to sort that out for us. Just give us a break, guys. Um, Oh, now it looks like yes, it's now. Is it now?
Mm.
Yeah. No, so we're gonna
Hi.
we're gonna pull you in as soon as Krista is able to pull you in. So that at least we have you
Okay,
on the screen. So as I was saying,
cool.
yes, so that we have two amazing people to speak about the school governing body functions. Nolan Tony, Noel Isaacs and Tony Marshall. And unfortunately, both of them are the victims of load shedding. So we've got Noel coming in. We're just waiting to see when we can get him online. But while we're waiting for Noel, while Crystal's sorting that out, let me just greet those who are online. I'm Michelle. Thanks for joining us. Tertia, hi Tertia. Lovely to have you here. Tertia said just a question. Tertia, I'll pick up on your question now, and then of course, just check the Ashley. Hi, Ashley. Lovely to have you back. COVID-19 will affect changes to the code of conduct. Yes, thanks, Ashley. You made a comment. And then, of course, Pekwa's here as well. Hi, Pekwa. Lovely to have you here as well. Tertia, if you can pull up Tertia's question for us and just get that other thing off there. Tertia says, just a question, Sharon. What if elections take place next year? There are no parents who want to go on the SGB. Does that mean the old SGB stays on? No. Tertia, you will find parents. I'm sure your school is big enough. You know, that is the other challenge. Um, to what extent do we advocate, and that is the part of the intention of the series here. If we can just hold, I just want to let Krista, I think it may be pulling up the wrong no. Krista, there's another
No phone.
oh no
You.
phone. Now you try to get no in. Guys,
Okay.
we're having a few technical issues. Back to Tertia's point. Tertia, I would recommend that you guys rather think about it in a more positive light, and say that knowing that you're going to need parents and knowing that it's challenging times for the parents, um, how do you how do you campaign for parent governors and explain to parents, because yes, we are confronted with the pandemic now, and yes, there are talks that it's going to last for quite a while. We're trying to get now in, so you'll be getting a little bit. It's going to be fun to see this video when we're done. But yeah, Noel is joined. There, I can see Noel joined. Okay, now we're trying to get hold of you, so we'll still continue trying. It's just a bit tough. So Tricia, sorry for breaking. The question is, how do you motivate parents? How do you convince parents that we need parents? So that's the one. And if we don't have to the old parents, can we just let them roll over to the new term? Short answer, no, we can't just have a roll over. There must be elections. The parents who are currently serving on the governing body may make themselves available again for re-election for a second term. And then it is really the school's responsibility to ensure that you get parent governors to serve. And that is part of our challenge. I see Nolis coming online now. Almost. There we go. No, we've got no on. Thank goodness. So I know. Let me just finish
Yes,
quickly with Tertia. So
I
Tertia, I
sure.
hope that answer satisfies you for now. One is no rollover, must be re-election. Secondly, I'm saying that there must be lots of advocacy, lots of promotion, because we need to let the parents understand that it's about being part of a school community and being in that very privileged and exciting role of being a governor. And then we must take them by the hand. I think that is what is missing in our communities. That we almost leave parents to struggle on their own. And that is part of the intention of these discussions, that we realize that our parents need to be empowered. Our parents need to be taken by the hand. Our parents need to get more confidence to deal, to realize that it's demanding. The job is very demanding, but it's a very exciting, fulfilling job, because you'll be able to participate in all the decision making of the school. Okay, let me just greet now quickly. No, thanks so much. I hope you can hear us. No, can you hear us? No.
Yes, yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we got a bit of an echo on both sides, but I'm so glad you came in. Guys, so here Nola's finally beaten ISCOM. Yeah, so Nola's here and he's going to chat specifically to the SGB functions. And like I said, you must give us questions to help us guide and shape the session, because the session is all about, just having a good conversation. Like Tertia asked a very powerful question here now about, what happens if parents don't want to come on board. So no, I don't think you can see that question. But Tertia was just asking what happens if we don't get parents to make themselves available next year for election, and whether we can have, just the same governing body continuing. And my response was no, you can't have it all over. There must be an election process. They may stand again, but they must go through the whole legal process of election. I don't know if you want to comment on that.
Yeah, that's correct, because the governing body's term comes to an end. So even if you elect the same people, as long as you elect a new governing body, but it means the term has come to an end.
Yes, yes. Thanks. Now, hi. Can I just greet a couple of people here quickly now? Hi Ursula. Thanks. Ursula says happy birthday girl. Of course, I'll have a birthday. I just couldn't invite all of you guys. Thanks for that, Ursula. Anthony. Hi, Anthony. Hi. And then of course Michelle is giving some input, and Victor. Hi, Victor. Lovely to have you here as well. Um, Anthony says, good evening, Shannon and Noel. Such an important and relevant topic. Is it possible? Here's a question for you, Noel. Is it possible that an election can be held online via Google Form or similar? Now you're going to pick up on that.
Um, yeah, obviously the Schools Act regulates the whole issue of governing bodies, the composition, their functions, and so on. But everything relating to the elections of the governing body is done per province. So what normally happens if they rewrite or they amend the regulations provincially for governing bodies in terms of elections, and when people lose the seats on the governing body, is done within the province. And normally the head of education, he consults the governing body associations in the province.
Okay.
So I'm sure, because if I can just share with you, here in the Western Cape, with disciplinary hearings, when the department now charges a teacher or a non-teaching staff member, in the ELRC, they have written a standard operating procedure for having virtual hearings. So I'm sure that will also be put under consideration for the election next year. But then again, in working class communities, poor communities, a lot of parents don't have access to those platforms. They don't use it.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Now our sound is actually very bad tonight. Your echo is loud on your side. I wonder if you can just turn down your volume a bit for us, because we're picking up a lot of echo and we missed a lot of what you said now. But Anthony, I hope you picked up what Noel said and the others. No, you said that, yeah. Don't you want to just repeat it? Don't you want to repeat that answer quickly? I don't want to put words in your mouth now.
I'll gladly do that, Sharon. What I was saying was that that the governance issue, the composition of the governing body, their functions, that is obviously contained in the Schools Act.
Yeah.
But everything relating to the elections, that is written by the province itself. The rules for the elections, who stand, how many people on the governing body. So I'm sure in the province, consideration can be given to online elections. But I also added to say that in the very poor communities, that could most probably be a problem because a lot of parents are not on those platforms like Google Meet or Skype or Zoom.
Okay. Yeah. Got it. Got it. Anthony, I hope you got that. That no, if it just perhaps the sound is just bad on my side, but Noel is saying that the elections are regulated. It's in the act, but provinces can decide on the format of the elections, and online elections may be accommodated. But then we also need to give consideration to those who don't have access to online platforms. I think that is sort of in sum what Noel was saying. Yeah. Thanks for that, no. And then Michelle, no, us guys can ask questions. And then since you're online, then we'll probably ask you
Yeah,
to answer the questions, ne? And then you can fill in with other comments that you wanted to
sure.
say tonight. Michelle, it might be a
Yeah,
good,
sure.
yeah, there's Michelle's question. It might be a good idea to observe foundation phase parents, see which parents are always interacting with the school, the go-getters. Yeah, Michelle, that's just a comment. So you're saying that perhaps we must try to recruit parents from the foundation phase, and in that way you're almost growing a nice pool of parents because they're going to stay with the school for quite a while. I think that's a good idea. And then Michelle is greeting you now, Michelle Pinto. Okay. No, is there any other comment you wanted to make about the school governing body
Hi, Michelle.
functions?
Hi, Michelle.
No, anything else you wanted to comment about the school governing body functions? I
Um,
just spoke about the first five.
I think the most important thing is to find the right people to serve on the governing body, which is not always possible.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Because, as Michelle said, one must maybe be proactive and identify parents.
Mm.
Ask class teachers to identify parents and ask them to avail themselves to be nominated and to be elected. However, at our school, we've done that in the past, and it has not always proved successful because you don't know how committed the parents really are. Because the one thing you need on a governing body is committed parents. Parents will always attend meetings and workshops and subcommittee meetings.
Mm. Yeah. So it's quite yes. So when we recruit the parents, would it be fair to say that we need to when we campaign, let parents know that it's gonna be quite a bit of investment of their time. That there will be meetings so that when they come in, they're aware that there's going to be that kind of demand of their time. Rather than just this, not sharing that with them, and then when they get in there, they realize, oh my goodness, we must meet once a week, once a month. There will be emergency meetings and so forth. Should that not form part of our campaign now? So that we don't, that we actually encourage parents, but we give them the picture of the real picture, so to speak, of the kind of time investment, that it's going to require of them. I just a
M-
comment.
Most, yeah, most certainly, Sharon, because I think when parents, and I think we must learn from every experience, election experience. So when we send out our notice, or even before that, tell the parents, if you are prepared to serve on the governing body, this is the amount of time
Mm,
you be expected to spend maybe a meeting once a month of
mm,
the governing body and maybe a subcommittee, a DC, a finance committee, a maintenance committee, and then also obviously they must avail themselves for capacity building because you can't teach them everything in a meeting. There must be space and time
mm,
for capacity building, albeit now capacity building initiatives from the department or from the school itself.
mm. Yes, I agree with that. Let me just see if we got other questions here as well. Teacher says, oh, yes, if you want to pull that up quickly, Chris, yes, we do have re-elections, but our parents in our school do not come forward when it takes place. Does not look like the interest, but understood, chat, thank you, yes. No, Tertia, I think we agree, that we we have to realize that the economic and social context, that's the reality. And so parents may be disinterested, yes, but there may be many who are interested, but because of economic pressures, social pressures, and other kinds of pressures that they don't want to make themselves available. So it's very challenging to get our parents on board. But the whole idea of having an SGB is to democratize the not the management, but the running of the school. You know, so your SGB is like your grassroots democratic structure, and that was intended. The intent part, one of the main intentions is to get parents to be involved in the running of the school and just to help the school. So I don't think, personally, I think that although it's difficult, we mustn't give up on our parents because we may be compromising in a way that whole principle of democracy that we would like to have in our school communities, especially in our township communities. Okay, that's just sort of just a personal view. Then Ursula says, in the case of an acting principal, was who assumes the duties and role of the principal of the SGB? No, that question. If you have an acting principal, then who must assume the duties and the role of the principal on the SGB? Did you get that? No, did you get that question? The question
The,
by Ursula, she
the,
wants to know if you have an acting principal, then who must assume the duties of the principal on the SGB?
it would be the principal. Uh, the principal must fulfill that role. The only time that the principal cannot fulfill that role if they advertise the post and the principal is going to apply for the post, then obviously the principal cannot fulfill that role. But otherwise, the principal must fulfill all the roles that a principal fulfills because the principal is there as the principal, but just he or she is acting.
Okay.
Meaning they're not permanently appointed as the principal.
Yeah. Ursula, you got that point that Mel just mentioned there. That the person must assume all the duties and responsibilities of the principal, provided that person is not one of the applicants if that post is being advertised, because there will be a conflict of interest. Thank you. Now that answer, I'm sure it's clear to everybody. And then Bramwell is greeting. Is it should virtual meetings be written up in the constitution for legality's sake? No. Then Bramwell is asking, must you write up virtual meetings as part of your constitution now to ensure that you give it that legal status?
No, yes, no, yeah, of course, because that is just to legitimize your decision making.
Yeah.
So just amend the constitution to say that during COVID-19 there will be virtual meetings and all decisions taken at, I don't know if it's at or during virtual meetings are legal and binding.
Yes. Good. Thank you, Bramwell. That is a good question for the community as well. That now with the COVID context, many governing bodies are also having their virtual meetings, and those meetings, as Noel just explained, must be given the same legal status as other meetings. But now he's asking, Bramwell is also asking, must that be recorded in their constitution as well? Virtual meetings.
Yes, um, it it can be recorded. Yeah, you can amend the constitution because in your constitution you will have the following meetings once a month. So just amend the constitution to say that during COVID-19 the governing body will make use of virtual meetings or the ordinary meetings, which means a governing body meeting, or maybe all subcommittee meetings like finance committee especially.
Yes. Okay. Guys, I think that, thank you, Pranmo. That was a very good question. Guys, you can give the question. No one is here to answer all questions. Tony, I suppose, is still experiencing load shedding. So no one is in the hot seat. He will have to answer all the questions. And we're quite happy if you have questions to ask the questions because we will continue next week as well. The idea is to answer any questions you have, but the panelists are also here to talk through Section 2021. But that discussion will not take priority over your questions. That is why I'm entertaining the questions that are coming through. No, okay with that. I think we should have discussed that if people have questions, that you guys answer the questions and then use, as pillars.
As far, yeah, as far as possible.
Yes, thanks. Now, I think we may have Tony trying to get in. I'm so glad, guys. I'm so glad Crystal's on duty. I think I would have just messed up this entire session with all this technology here. Um, no, you can't. You won't be able to test the audio. We're going to have to run. Sorry, we're just having a private conversation as well. Shamima. Hi, Shamima. Thanks for joining us. Shamima's question, Crystal. Shamima, no, unfortunately, you can't see my screen now, so I'll read it out. Shamima wants to know what constitutes as legal evidence of guardianship in order to serve on the SGB as a parent member. Does it does it require a simple affidavit written by the candidate himself and stamped by the SAP without evidence from social welfare? I think you got the gist of that, ne? Who qualifies as a guardian and what is
Yeah,
the legal basis for it? Yeah.
I think in uh, about 10 years ago, the department was much more stricter in terms of the definition of what constitutes a parent. Then you had to have either adopted the child legally and you had to have court papers. But now, if you look at the definition in the Schools Act and in the provincial measures, then they actually indicate that any person who fulfills the duty of a parent,
Yeah. That
which means
Shamima,
the grandparent, if the child lives with a if the child lives with a grandparent, then that parent is effectively fulfilling the duty of a parent. So, which means that parent could then be could make him or herself available for the governing body. But I think what schools always want is they just want some documentary evidence just to cover themselves.
yeah. Okay, Shamima, I'm sure now covered your point. So the parent category, the definition of parent is quite wide according to the legal description. And then, like Noel said, schools just want some form of documentation so that there's no conflict in terms of that. Okay. No, yeah, we'll try to give you guys the legal references as well. But we just for those of you who join us later, thanks for being here. We having major issues. I think Eskom just threw out everything. Um, missed our speakers around, missed my system up here, but we having quite an interesting discussion. So yes, we'll give you far more detail. We're just entertaining the questions that you have. And I'll see if we can hear, see if we have any other questions. Are there any other questions, Chris? Lavona Souls, Johnson, hi Lavona, thanks for being online. Lavona says you can hear the private convo. Yes, we were talking loudly so that you could hear. Yeah, thanks. So, guys, now I wonder, and then Noel disappeared, and we can just see into Noel's house at this point. This is a quiet session, guys. This is a fun session. Eh? This is like the new normal. Ashley says, okay, now before you give more detail, Ashley has a question for you. Ashley Chapter. Ashley says, please clarify who can serve as office bearers and in which capacity? That's quite a meaty question. Who can serve as office bearers and in which capacity?
The I think the only exception they make is for the chairperson, where the chairperson can only be a parent. But but for a secretary or a vice chairperson or treasurer, it can be any elected member of the governing body,
That's a good answer.
which means the co-opted member, cannot hold office. However, the co-opted member can chair a subcommittee.
Okay. That's a succinct answer. Lovely. I think for the group on here, and I'll just clarify that. So the chairperson must be a parent, and all other elected members can then become office bearers. And I'm just repeating what you're saying now, just in case people are getting lost in all the echo we have. And the co-opted member may cannot hold office, but that person can be given become an office bearer at subcommittee level. I think I've captured that right there now. Okay, so yes, thanks for
Yes,
asking that question, Ashley. That was
yes, because
yep. I'm listening now. We listening.
for argument's sake, if you take the interview committee,
Mm.
um, the committee that does shortlisting and interviews, normally people would appoint the chairperson as a as a chairperson of the interview committee, but it can be any governing body member. Because remember, even if it's an opted member, that person can chair that committee. However, when they do the nomination, they would do the nomination to the full governing body. But when it comes to the ratification, even though that person had chaired that committee, that person cannot be part of the ratification because the person is an elected, is a co-opted member. Because co-opted members do not have voting rights.
Okay, that so just to clarify now, the co-opted member you're talking about is the person who has just been co-opted onto the selection and interview committee, and not because there's a vacancy on the full governing body.
Yes, I'm saying the act says the governing body may, it doesn't say must, it's an option you have. The governing body may opt members from the community to assist it in discharging its functions.
Mm, mm.
So that's got a wide meaning. So let's say the governing body opts two people from the community,
Okay.
whether it's people from community organizations or policemen or whatever, then that would constitute co-opted members. We're not talking about where they co-opt somebody on a committee based on experience or expertise.
Okay. Right. Guys, I hope you got that. I feel so guilty if I must repeat because you may be hearing exactly what Noel is saying. Perhaps the problem is just on my side. But besides your your prescribed number of governing body members, like Noel explained, you may opt additional members and then he explained the role that they play there. Okay? No, we definitely need that to run another session because I'm not sure what the sound is like here. Okay. Anything else that, let's see if there's another question, Chris. Okay. So, Branmo has a question. If the school doesn't have someone with financial experience, can't you co-opt a person to fulfill that function? If you don't have um, someone with financial experience on your governing body, can you call someone? That is what Granville is asking.
Of course, it can happen. It can happen in a multiple. in multiple ways. You can most probably appoint somebody who is not a teacher as a finance officer. The treasurer of the governing body is normally a kind of, I would call it a glorified position. It's just somebody with a title. But remember that the treasurer is just does the over the treasurer just does the supposed to do the oversight, but not the real bookkeeping work. So on your finance committee, you can, because if you look at the schools, like it says, in terms of committees, the governing body may opt persons onto committees based on their experience or their skills.
Mm.
So if the school does not have somebody with that expertise in finance, then they can co-opt that person with the necessary skills onto the finance committee to perform that specialist function.
Okay. Yeah. Got that. Brando, that would answer your question, right? Yeah. So we don't have any other questions here. I think no, we've answered all the questions. Just double checking because they, yeah, Nicolette, thank you, Nicolette, also wishing me for my birthday. Thanks so much for that. Let me just see. Yeah. No, I think we covered all the questions. So, guys, I'm going to run. We're going to, Nolan and I will be on for another 5 minutes because of the technical issues also that we're experiencing. And then this SGB series will be continuing at least for the next 2 weeks. So today it turned out, I must say thanks very much to those of you who asked the questions because you helped to clarify quite a few issues. And the intention is actually to work our way through the functions of the governing body and everything related to the governing body in the Schools Act. So the session was well driven by you. And thanks for that. And we have agreed, Noel and I and Tony was supposed to be on with us tonight. We have agreed that there will be a lot of flexibility in terms of you putting questions on the table, the experts that we have on at the round table answering, and then we would also like to just um, clarify certain issues in the Schools Act as well. Okay, it's all about empowering us and our parents and teachers, everybody who would like to understand what the Schools Act says about the school governing body. So hopefully you'll still ask us a question or two, and then I'm going to ask Noel to give us a just a wrap up. Noel, I see here, Lavona says, I'm probably totally, Lavona Johnson, no, I'm totally off topic here, she says. Okay, long thing. I'm probably totally off topic here, but what the role is the SGBs playing during COVID-19 at schools? To our, okay, I'm going to take it. She's got about 5 questions here now. Do our local SGBs have enough competent experts on the forums to provide guidance? Okay, let's take it one point at a time. She wants, Lavona's asking about where the school, what is the role of the HBs currently during the COVID-19 pandemic? What role are HBs playing? And do they have enough competent experts on their forums to help them deal with these health issues, precautions, etc.? I think that sort of sums up what Lavona's asking.
Yeah, I think the question is what role are they
Okay, I think we just lost now. Just repeat now.
I think the question is what role are they? I'm saying the question should perhaps be what role are they expected to play during COVID-19? Because remember, and here we're talking management versus governance. The management of the whole safety protocol at school it's a management function. The principal together with the SMT and the staff. However, the SGB representing the parents and the community must also ensure that everything is in place to make sure that the safety measures are being um, implemented strictly according to what the Department of Basic Education prescribed, and also that the children, that the teachers are safe and the children are safe. So I think when they have meetings, they must ask the principal to report on, what are the safety measures, and even for argument's sake now, the foundation phase, okay, we're always confused with the dates when the minister announces the dates. But now with the foundation phase officially coming back on the 20th, 27th, the governing body can ask the principal for what is the plan for the reopening of the ones and twos? What plans do you have in place?
Yeah, I like that. Guys, can you understand why I always pull over me? He has a way of just condensing all the information. So, Lavona, I hope you're happy with that answer. I'm happy with that answer because the safety, health and safety is now a management function. And so the governing body plays an oversight role just to engage the management to hear how the health and safety matters are being dealt with at the school. That's in a nutshell what Noel was just explaining. And I think the other guys on here, I think that's also very useful information for you. So the governing body should be kept posted all the time and they should be asked to be active participants in terms of just helping to ensure that everybody understands what is happening at the school and so forth. Okay? I think, Navona, your question is going to be the last question then. No? Is there any closing comment you want to make for tonight? Because you're on next week as well. So just to wrap up our session for tonight, um, is there a closing comment?
I think, I think, I think, Sharon. A few weeks ago, somebody mentioned no, principals are not part of the governing body. The governing body is part of the principal. So I think what that person was trying to get to was that in a lot of schools, the principals kind of dominate the governing bodies,
Okay.
and the parents uh, are inclined to listen to what the principal has to say because he or she knows more. But Sharon, and maybe one day you must get this guy on your show. His name is Pat Williams. Now, let me explain to you who Pat Williams is. Pat Williams and I were colleagues years ago. He was then a regional secretary of SATU. He then became the first full-time secretary of the ELRC in the Western Cape. Then Pat became the director of labor relations at the Premier's office at provincial government. And Pat has now got his own consultancy, and Pat is now also a qualified legal person. He's got a master's in law. So he has written a lot of articles and papers on school governance. And he told me once what he is busy doing is he's writing a kind of a course for governing bodies, because he says the only solution to the gap in the skills based and knowledge based of parents on governing bodies is to put them through a 6 month course and not have these hit and run workshops that we have.
Uh,
Because that is the biggest problem we have, is the capacity of the parents to get to the level, because teachers and principals deal with these things on a daily basis. With the issues that we deal with at governance level. Most of the issues we deal with on a daily basis. But the parents, they are not in education, so they don't fully understand a lot of the things. You should know that when the department has these workshops, this induction, they have it for 2 days, 3 days, and then there's nothing more after that for the parents. It is then left to principals and maybe teachers who serve on the governing bodies to kind of do on the job training in the meetings to say no, it's like that. The school access that and that. This is what he has in mind. Like a 6 month course on the schools act and school governance for parents serving on the governing body. And I think that is maybe idea to explore. Nobody has come up with a sustainable solution as to how do we do authentic and real capacity building of parents serving the governing.
Mhm. Yes. No, thank you for that. So we are, sorry, we are now mandating you as school community, school corridor community to ask Pat if you'll come on in 2 weeks' time. So next week we'll pick up on this discussion and he can be on the following week because we've got a couple of sessions coming up. And I think it's best to get him on sooner rather than later. So next week we'll just pick up and wrap up part of our discussion. So we will still meet again and talk about our challenges of tonight's session. And then next week you'll be on again, and then we'll get packed with you the in 2 weeks' time, if you're okay with that. Yeah. So guys, do you have it? And we
I'm
have
sure. I'm sure
he would be available. Yeah.
he will definitely. I will speak to him now already. It's 2 weeks notice. It's sufficient time for him to avail himself. But he's got a lot of legal knowledge on governance.
Yes. Guys, I'm taking advantage of now saying these expert as 2 weeks is a long enough time. But we'll accommodate Pat when he's available for us. If he's available next week, then we'll shift our discussion and accommodate him. But we're looking at least a 2 week time frame to get Pat on so that he can just help to empower us around the SGB topic that we have. So, to all of you who have contributed, thanks for your patience, thanks for the interest you're showing, and then we'll see you next week. No, thanks so much. You know, you are my pillar.
Yes.
You're my pillar. I need to lean on you during these sessions. So, no, thanks again, and thanks for being our guest panelist for the next 2, 3, 4 weeks to talk about the SGB issues, right? And then, as you said, you're going to bring Pat in, and we may even get other people to join us, but you'll be the stable one during the series for us. Thanks so much for that. Then, guys, have a super time. I am, yes, officially I had my birthday last week, Saturday. And if you're my Facebook friend, you can see that we had a mad time. So I was a little bit crazier than I'm here. But thanks so much for being willing to come back on, even though we're experiencing major sound and technical issues here. But hopefully you've learned something, and then next week we'll see you again. On that note, School Corridor says we like to empower, we like to inspire, and of course we like to grow each other. Take care. Good night. No, I wonder, you want to say something to the group? Quickly. Fine. Forgot to ask you.
Are you asking me?
I
Are
forgot
you
to
asking
ask
me,
you to
Sharon?
say bye to the guys.
Oh, yeah, no. Thank you for the questions. We don't profess to know everything, but we're able to ask the questions because we've been involved in school governance since the Schools Act was promulgated.
Mm.
But questions are always welcome, and I especially like the ones that I'm unable to answer because then I can go and do some research, and then I also learn in the process.
Yeah. Thanks so much, now, guys. Then go on from School Corridor. Grow, inspire, and empower. Good night. No, you can just hang on. Let me just see. Ah, where's this?
Yes, 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 yes. Be- Because tonight I actually